Are you serious? Are you serious? You know, I'm Pastor Paul Begley. I do want to look into this Benghazi situation because American lives were lost. Diplomats willing to put their life on the line without a gun in their hand, basically by using diplomatic approach. But when you're sent to the radical Islamic nations such as Libya, you put your life in your own hands. Or do you put your life in the hands of your nation, that if in trouble, they will come to get you? Well, I've got some, just a little bit of the words of James Morgan, the British warrior, really, who was stationed there to keep an eye and to kind of make sure of the security methods that were being provided by the Libyan government for United Nations Ambassador Christopher Stevens and his staff. And I'm going to play some of that from 60 Minutes interview. But first, let me tell you what's going on in Washington. What has been going on. Two of the Justice Department's key witnesses in last year's terrorist attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi, Libya, were summoned to Capitol Hill earlier this month, and they were drilled for hours in separate legal depositions. Now, responding to the congressional subpoenas, the State Department security agents were asked how the Libyan terrorists stormed the mission, set parts of it on fire, how they were armed, how they killed the 4 Americans, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens. Sources with knowledge of the matter said that the agents were asked about security breakdowns, whether the administration reacted appropriately that led up to the September 11th, 2012 attack. How those highly guarded secret interviews came about was part of an increasingly bitter dispute between the two branches of the federal government. So let me play for you some of the interview. I got more information. As you can see, the eye poking, the finger pointing, and the name calling has begun on Capitol Hill. Why were these men left to die? Why wasn't any of the special ops sent in to help them when they could have been there within 45 minutes? Why was General Ham's orders told to stand down instead of going with the Marines or other special op forces to help? And why was Ham let go? And why did these men die? And why do we not have answers? And why hasn't anyone been arrested? And why hasn't anybody been held accountable and fired and removed from office of positions within the United States government? First, let's get some of the first-hand account from from James Morgan, who certainly was an eyewitness to what took place. Let's go now to the 60-minute interview with him.
I was dreading seeing who it was, you know. It didn't take long to get to the room, and I could see in through the glass. I didn't even have to go into the room to see who it was. I knew who it was immediately.
Who was it?
It was the ambassador. He was dead. Yeah, shocking.
So he is the first eyewitness, James Morgan was, of the dead body laying there of United Nations Ambassador Christopher Stevens. Now we got, first of all, as you guys know, Susan Rice, the United Nations Ambassador for America, went on 5 Sunday talk shows on every major network of the mainstream media to let us all know that it was a YouTube video some guy in California made insulting the Prophet Muhammad that just caused a spontaneous reaction on 9/11 to go in and overtake this mission there in the U.S. Consulate there in Benghazi, Libya. And we were led to believe that for days, for 2 weeks. But now we're getting the truth, or are we getting it all? At least we're getting some of it, as these just James Morgan has come forward. Let me give you some more of the well-planned attack that was uncovered by CBS News.
Indian Guard Force. Now the ambassador was dead, and the U.S. compound was engulfed in flames and overrun by dozens of heavily armed fighters. Although the attack began here, the more organized assault unfolded about a mile across the city at a top-secret CIA facility known as the Annex. It lasted more than 7 hours and took 4 American lives.
We do not have any indication at this point of premeditation or pre-planned attacks, but it is
contrary to the White House's public statements, which were still being made a full week later. It's now well established that the Americans were attacked by Al-Qaeda in a well-planned assault.
So there, Jay Carney, the press secretary of the United States of America, flat out lies. I mean, this guy's a hired liar. I mean, I hate to say that. Being a pastor, I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but there's no question. I have seen him bold-faced lie so many times. You know, I understand he has a difficult job, and he's responsible for trying to disseminate the information and try to represent the President of the United States and how that certain information needs to be softly brought forward or carefully presented. We're not talking about careful presentation. We're talking about outright, flat-out lies. Now, maybe he was lied to and was sent out there with a lie, but I can tell you what, somebody's lying, and somebody needs to tell the truth. These dead American diplomats deserve it. Well, maybe we have to get it from the British and from a guy named James Morgan. He was continued to be questioned, but also let's hear some more information of what was taking place in Benghazi.
5 months before that night, Morgan Jones first arrived in Benghazi, in eastern Libya, about 400 miles from the capital, Tripoli. He thought this would be an easy assignment compared to Afghanistan and Iraq, but on his first drive through Benghazi, he noticed the black flags of Al-Qaeda flying openly in the streets, and he grew concerned about the guard force as soon as he pulled up to the U.S. compound.
There was nobody there that we could see. And then we realised they were all inside drinking tea, laughing and joking.
What did you think?
Instantly I thought we were going to have to get rid of all these guys.
Morgan Jones's job was training the unarmed guards who manned the compound's gates. A second Libyan force, an armed militia hired by the State Department, was supposed to defend the compound in the event of an attack. Morgan had nothing to do with the militia, but they worried him so much he could not keep quiet.
Because I was saying, these guys are no good, you need to get them out of here.
You also kept saying, if this place is attacked, these guys are not going to stand and fight.
Yeah, I used to say it all the time. In the end, I got quite bored of hearing my own voice saying it.
I mean, think about that. He said it so many times, he got bored of listening to his own voice saying it. The guy was sent in. Morgan Jones shows up there and sees black flags of radical jihadists all throughout the city. And when he gets to the mission, he sees that the guards who are supposed to be protecting the American diplomats, nobody's even out at the gate. They're inside drinking tea and laughing and joking. And this guy, Morgan Jones, his job was to make sure he trained these guys to protect things. And he immediately is perceptive to the fact that this is the most vulnerable situation you could ever be. Now, why in the world leading up to 9/11, knowing that we've had tons of credible threats by radical Islamic jihadists, would you, and just had an overthrow during the Arab Spring, of which the Americans led the overthrow. It was President Obama that led the no-fly zone to get rid of Muammar Gaddafi. You think that left a good taste in the mouth of some of the radical jihadists in Libya? Common sense says you would make sure that any diplomat you sent back in there under the new government would be truly protected, especially when Christopher Stevens is begging Hillary Clinton, begging the State Department, begging everyone to please send more support. Well, let's get another information. Let's hear about the actual attack that took place from the words of Morgan Jones.
In Benghazi, Morgan Jones, who was at his apartment about 15 minutes away, got a frantic call from one of his Libyan guards.
I could hear gunshots, and he said, "There's men coming into the mission." His voice, he was scared. He could tell he was really scared, and he was running. I could tell he was running.
His first thought was for his American friends, the State Department agents who were pinned down inside the compound, and he couldn't believe it when one of them answered his phone.
I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, we're getting attacked." And I said, "How many?" And he said, "They're all over the compound." And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. And I said, "Well, just keep fighting. I'm on my way."
Morgan's guards told him the armed Libyan militia that was supposed to defend the compound had fled, just as Morgan had predicted. His guards, unarmed and terrified, sounded the alarm, but they were instantly overwhelmed by the attackers.
They said, "We're here to kill Americans, not Libyans." So they give them a good beating. Pistol whipped them, beat them with their rifles, and let them go.
We're here to kill Americans,
That's what they said, yeah.
not Libya.
So, all right, so now the Congress, let's just move quick. There's more, and I'm going to cover more of this story. I'm going to cover this today on my live radio show, so don't miss it. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail. My show is from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, so don't miss it. At my website, www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. And I will do another YouTube video on this subject tomorrow, as the unraveling, the peeling away of the onions is beginning to happen, not only with the Benghazi scandal, but with the Obamacare health care, the Fast and Furious, the NSA wiretapping, not just on the press or all the American citizens and every email and text and instant message, but now 35 leaders of the world, our friends. We have more surveillance on our friends than we do our enemies. Is that ringing a bell with anybody? Is it starting to paint a picture for you? Leave your comments below. Continue to pray for the United States of America. And keep praying for one another. And the body of Christ, do not let up on the Great Commission, leading people to Jesus Christ, because certainly we're watching Bible prophecy fulfill itself as the rise of the beast. The tracks are being laid before the train can come down the track. And trust me, the tracks are being laid for the new world order or the beast.